time for the Praise Report, a media ministry of Heartland Christian Center. Many have been touched physically, spiritually, and emotionally while enjoying the program. And now, here's Pastor John.
John DeLacio here. How many of you love to be givers? Do you know the Bible said it's more blessed to give than to receive? How many of you feel good about helping somebody? You should. If you're a born-again believer, you're filled with the Spirit of God, there's two ways, many ways, but I'll tell you two things that I look for in somebody. And you don't have to look far because it will be revealed to you. If they're stingy or lazy. In my opinion, if you are stingy and lazy, selfish, you need the Holy Ghost. Because God is a giver. And it is more blessed to give there. You feel good about helping people and giving. Not in a haughty, arrogant way. But there's something more to that. You really can't receive until you give. Say that with me. I don't give to get. But I give to receive. So I can give. So I can receive. So I give. See, don't stop on the receiving end. Don't stop on the getting end. And make sure your motive and your heart is right. But you cannot, how many found out you cannot outgive God? You cannot outgive Him. But I found out that a lot of people that even though once they learn about sowing and reaping and seed time and harvest and tithes and offerings and vows and pledges, and once they know that, sometimes when a problem comes along, or financial, many times, unfortunately, the first thing they do is cut back on their giving to God. Please don't do that. We're going to be looking at this, a series of these. There's too much to do in this little 15-minute video here, but let's look at Malachi chapter 3. Everybody say Malachi 3. The Lord's talking to me. We'll just look at a couple verses here, and we'll pick up on this another time. For I am the Lord, I change not. Malachi 3:6. Now, let me have you guys again. Just go up and down with me, be patient with me. And you can watch the video and take all the time and the notes you want. A lot of people say that tithing is just for the Old Testament. Not true. A lot of people saying that tithing is not in the New Testament. Not true. We get into that at another time. He said, I change not. Even from the days of your fathers, you have gone away from my ordinance. You want to circle that word if you can, ordinance. If you're using an expensive cell phone, I don't recommend it. And you have not kept them. Watch, return to me, and I will return to you. Let me have you guys again. The Lord is getting ready to talk about tithing and giving. And it's very interesting to me that He calls it a ordinance. There are ordinances that God still requires us to keep today. One of them is communion. Another one is water baptism. And He's calling this an ordinance. Then He says, return to me and I will return to you. I look at that this way. He's not only talking to the people that used to do it but stopped doing it. He's telling them to do it again and I will bless you again. I look at it this way. It's also saying, whatever I give to you, give it back to me. And I'm going to bless it. And then watch what you'll be able to do with it. I'm going to take a little turn here. How many know the story in Moses? When what he did with that rod. He split the waters with that rod. Then there became a day when God told him to throw the rod down. Remember that? And when he threw the rod down, the rod became what? A serpent. But when he picked that rod back, when he told him to pick it up again, see, I believe he was showing him that that rod had ability to hurt him. Maybe he got a little prideful. I could split waters with this thing. Anything that you're leaning on other than God, it's going to tell you to let it go. But when he gives, he doesn't want it. He just wants you to be blessed. Remember when he went into the temple and he kicked out the money changers and they were counting on tables? He pulled those tables out from under them. They were counting on the tables more than him. But when Moses picked that rod up, that snake up, he turned it to a rod back again. No longer was it the rod of Moses. Now it's the rod of God. Woo! So when you give your money and your thinking to God, ooh, and he gives it back, it's not your money no more. It's God. And God can turn a little into much. Isn't that exciting? So whatever God gives you, and I want to say this too. When God gives you something, how many ever had God give you something? Usually when God gives you something, they're going to be calm when he's going to tell you to give it away. God gives you something, the time is going to probably come, we're going to give it away, and you're going to find out, is it really yours or really his? This is good stuff. This would make an Egyptian mummy dance. That's what Roy Harlan would say. So let's look at this. He said, will a man rob God? With a question mark. We're in the King James, verse 8. But you have robbed me. But you say, where have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Let me have your eyes again. When I saw that, I thought, God don't need the money. He neither slumbers nor sleeps. The earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, the silver is his, the gold is his. So when it says, but you have robbed me, the tithe is God's, it's not ours. It's a tenth. It's not just a 10%. It's our first and our best 10%. It's God's way of you proving to him he can trust you. And if he can trust you with a little, then he can trust you with much. But I thought about this for many, many times. As a younger Christian, I thought, how you rob God? This is how my thinking is. You rob him from the blessing of being able to bless you the way he would like to. I've learned that the hard way in the years of ministry. So many times you're a blessing to somebody and you want to be a continued blessing to them and their church and their ministry, but because of something they did or didn't do, or whatever the reason, they almost tied your hands where you can't be the blessing to them that you want to be. Doesn't that frustrate you when you can't be a blessing to somebody? Even if you're in a position to do it, but you can't because of something that they did wrong. It's like your kid. You want to do this for your kid, but you can't because your kid was disobedient, and now there's rules. So the tithe belongs to God. And he said, when you are holding back what belongs to me, you're robbing me from the blessing of wanting to bless you and being able to bless you the way I would like to. Don't do that. All right. Verse 10, bringing all the tithes into the store. The storehouse is where you get fed. That's where you're supposed to tithe. You tithe where you're getting the majority of your spiritual food. Okay. And if those of you watching, if this ministry is a blessing to you and you're getting fed from this ministry, then support the work of God. Support the work of God so we can continue. Somebody supported the ministry so we can get to you now. Now it's time for those people watching again to support so we can support even further. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse. Look, that there may be meat in your house. Is that what that says? No. That there may be meat in God's house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven. Well, if the windows of heaven need to be open, that means they're not always open, and the tide does. We're going to just close this and we'll pick up another time. But watch this. He says, prove me now with. And you'll hear a lot of preachers say that this is the only place in the Bible where God said you can test him. That you could test him. God says, if you do this, I'll do this. I look at it at another way also. I also look at it this way, that if we really trust God, not only we want God to prove it, God is saying, if you really trust me, prove it, show it by doing what I have been telling you to do. So when you hold back like that, you're saying, I don't trust God. You say, this little bit is better off in my hands than God's hand. No. The 2 fishes and the 5 loaves, they were better off in the hands of Jesus than in their hands. God could turn a little into a lot. I mean, God, we got to close here, but look what it says here, and we'll pick it up on part 2. I will rebuke the devourer. Rebuke means stop. Devour means seed eater. He said, he shall not destroy, look, he shall not destroy the fruit of your ground. The Lord is saying that when we trust him and obey him concerning tithes and offering, he will stop the seed eater from eating your seed. If the enemy's got your seed, if you don't sow, you never will have a harvest. So the enemy will do things here and there to hurt your finances, to cause you to hold back your seed, and guess what? Then you're in bigger trouble. And then, you say, what happens now? Well, I wanted to go to church, but I know they're going to talk about tithing, and I don't have it to give. So you stop reading the Bible, you stop hanging around the right people, you start using money foolishly, and now you're cursed with the curse. Don't do that. Tithe and offering, and support ministry like this that'll point you in the right direction. I want to hear from our partners. You know the number. It's on the screen. You can put a gift on your credit card. You can mail it to the address on your screen. You can put a gift on your website. But I encourage you to do that. You know why? This is good ground. And we're still friends. All right, we love you at a time.